In today's video, we will be talking about living versus non-living things, trying to answer the question, how can we tell if something is alive or not? Let's get started. So, we've all heard the word alive before and probably have some idea of what it means, but scientifically, we want to know, how can we truly tell if something is alive or not alive? So when you think of something that's alive, what are some things that come to your mind? You probably think of people, yourself, maybe dog. If you're really thinking about it, maybe a tree or another type of plant. Those are alive. Maybe if you really have some background knowledge, you think of something like bacteria, which is also alive. So what is it that all of these things have or do that helps us know that they are alive? Well, that's what we're going to learn about today. So in order for something to be alive, it has to possess what we call the characteristics of living things. And all living things share the same 6 characteristics of life. And in order for something to be alive, it must possess or have all 6 of these characteristics. Now, let's talk about what they are. First characteristic of life is cells. Cells are the tiny little building blocks that make up all living things, and they're the smallest unit of organization in any living thing. All living things are made of cells. So it's real simple. If something's made of cells, it's alive. If something is not made of cells, it is not alive, or what we call non-living. The next characteristic of life is reproduction. All living things are able to reproduce or create offspring. This just means more of the same organism. In the picture here, we can see a mommy elephant with her baby elephant, giving us an example of reproduction in a living thing. If something is alive, it can reproduce. Third is growth and development. All living organisms in some way change from their birth over their lifespan to adulthood or to death. This can be physical growth. If you think about a human baby, they're very, very small when they are born, and by the time they are a full adult, are much larger. This also involves maturing or maturation or development. So if you think about a baby can't walk or talk or do a lot of things, whereas a grown adult has matured and developed in lots of ways. You can also think about the life cycle of a frog, starting off as a tadpole and changing both in size and shape and maturity, eventually leading to an adult frog. The fourth characteristic of life is response to environment. So all living things have the ability to respond to their environment. This means that they respond to stimuli or things that happen in their environment, which is the area around them. So if you think of an example of a plant, they can actually grow and change the way they grow to face the light source to get the sun that they need. Another example of response to environment is when we walk into a really, really hot room, our body begins to sweat. This is in response to the temperature. The fifth characteristic of life is use of energy. So all living things, regardless of how big or small, require energy in order to perform their life functions. In animals, like people or horses, we get our energy from the food that we eat through a process that we'll learn about later called cellular respiration. Plants, on the other hand, also need energy, but they don't eat. They create their own food to get energy through a process called photosynthesis. But all living things need and use energy in order to stay alive. Finally, the sixth characteristic is adaptation. All living things can adapt. This means they over time become better suited to the environment that they live in. When organisms adapt over time, they eventually have characteristics or features that help them to survive in their environment. You can see in the image here a giraffe and its height and the length of its neck, as well as this certain lizard who has developed camouflage to help him to survive better in his environment. So, as a review, the 6 characteristics of life are the characteristics that all living things must possess. If something is alive, it has all 6 of these characteristics. And if it does not, it means it is not alive or is non living.